It has become so complicated.
It's more difficult to control.
Far more difficult to control. And today one of the biggest challenges for companies is how do you control your own message
Right.
in an age of disinformation and fake
Right.
news you see all the time. And in the age of video, people take what somebody said, chop it up,
Right.
put it on social media, put it in a video, and all of a sudden it's like, no, that
Right.
wasn't what I intended to say.
Right.
And it's not even what I did say. We live in an age where everyone thinks they can be a spokesperson.
So, welcome to the exit interview. Today, our guest is Moira, CEO and founder of Financial Profiles, a communication expert in the space, and somebody who knows a thing or two about crisis management as it relates to big companies and public companies. Moira, thank you so much for being here today. We really appreciate it.
Shauna, Keisha, thank you so much for having me on.
So, you have had an incredible journey starting off from investment banking, then going into investor relations, ultimately leading into communications, and then being a founder of your own communications firm. You were in investment banking for almost 8 years. That's almost a decade. And
Almost a decade, right.
And with that, usually people at that point, that's what they're going to do. That's like sort of the straight path, but not you. So would you care to
Right.
share that story?
I loved being in investment banking. I worked in the financial institutions group at Merrill Lynch with some really awesome people. First on the equity side of the shop, mostly doing it was called thrift conversions at that time, which was basically like listing of bank IPOs.
Mm.
Mhm.
So I did a lot of that, and then I worked on the mortgage and money markets origination team for a while, and I moved out to LA at a certain point with my boss who was coming out to LA to work on all the big banks. So he said, "Would you like to come and help me with this?" I said, "Absolutely." I was from California. I was kind of ready to leave New York. I loved living in New York, but I thought this sounds fun.
Mm.
And I liked working with this boss. And so I moved out to the West, and we were busy working with all of the big banks here, and it was all going along swimmingly well. Until at one point in time, the banks didn't need a lot of capital and there wasn't a lot of activity going on. And they decided that it was time for us to go back to New York.
Hmm.
So at that point, I just been married for about a year. And I wasn't sure if I wanted to go back to New York or not. And my husband was in the television post production business. We ended up deciding we want to live here. And I started thinking about, what did I want to do? And I read an ad for a job in investor relations at a large national firm called Financial Relations Board.
Mm-hmm.
And I had never heard about investor relations at the time, but I'm reading this thing and I'm thinking, this looks awesome. This is like everything I love
Right.
about banking
Yeah.
without merger models. So I was very happy to see that I could actually take some of the other things that I had learned,
Right.
the client service and the storytelling, and taking people out on the road and
Yeah.
mixing it up with investors. So that's how I decided to get into investor relations, and I guess you could say I never looked back.
Right.
How close to Wolf of Wall Street was that experience?
Oh my gosh. I think a lot of these, a lot of this stuff is sensational, right?
Yeah.
But let's say this: I would never trade in my time on Wall Street for
Yeah.
anything.
Anything,
It's
no.
the most dynamic, fun. I mean, when you're like a young professional,
Sure.
Mhm.
it's fun. I was on the banking team, and
Mhm.
our offices were very quiet, and everybody was working. But
Right.
if you ever wanted to have any fun, you just got on that elevator and went
Went-
down to the trading floor.
Oh,
Yeah.
And it was just pure fun. There was the long bond trader over here, and the
Yeah.
guy on the commercial paper desk over
That's
here, and the
hilarious.
Yeah.
swaps guy, and
Right.
it was endless fun. It's an interesting dichotomy, but smart, fun people, great. People work hard.
Yeah.
No
Sure.
matter what you do, you work hard. So
Yeah.
you learn a lot about that.
Right.
You learn a lot about the client's always right and taking care of the client.
Yes.
Right.
But it's a lot of fun, and these people also like to have fun.
Did you
Right.
find out very quickly thinking that probably investor relations was going to be less hours than iBanking, and it in fact was not?
Yes, that was a little shock to the system. As I
Yeah.
mentioned, I was newly married.
Yeah.
So I
Right.
thought, oh, this will be great. I'll have a little
Right.
downtime
Slow it
and
down.
slow
Yeah.
it down. Yeah,
Mhm, mhm.
exactly, Keisha. And guess what?
Not so
Not
much.
so much.
Yeah.
Not so much. No, it's investor relation, especially if you care about it.
Yes.
Right.
Right. So
Right.
IR is a real, in any communications job.
Yeah.
I started in IR and I think of that kind of narrowly. Today we help clients with all kinds of things.
Mhm.
But
Right. But it was the beginning of the industry at that time, right?
that's right.
Formulating
That's
what it
right.
was.
Yeah.
Basically, the firm I worked for initially basically created the
Mhm.
outsourced investor relations industry.
Right.
And so we were, I was early in on a thing like, at a time
Right.
when the field was really being created.
Mhm.
And it's come a long way since then.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
And then how did that end up leading you into ultimately becoming a communications expert, finding your own firm?
Well, I worked for this firm. It went by the name by FRB, Financial Relations Board, and I worked there for about 13 years, and I loved it. I managed the West Coast for them, so I
Mhm.
had a really great team of people working with me.
Mhm.
It was during the dot-com bubble and all this sort of thing.
Oh.
We had a great business. It was a well-oiled machine. There was a limited amount of competition at the time, which was kind of fun. You
Right.
called and said hi. We're from the oldest and largest, firm, and
Right.
you got
You
hired
got
because of
somebody.
that.
Mhm.
That company got sold to Interpublic for
Right.
advertising and all kinds of brands, and it was kind of the classic bad acquisition.
Ah.
So
In which way? Where did it
uh,
fail?
I think that the people that acquired us didn't really understand what our line of work was.
Yeah.
Our whole brand of FRB unfortunately went completely downhill after that.
Mm.
And I remember one time my boss, who was no longer there, called me and said, "This is the Titanic and it is time for you to exit stage left."
Mm.
Yeah.
And it was completely time to do that.
Right.
And
That's great
then,
that they gave you that call though. That like
yes,
you got
yes,
that tap
yes,
on the shoulder, like time
yes.
to
Time to go.
find a vest.
Yeah.
Time to go.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I went to another firm
Uh-huh.
for a couple of years,
Uh-huh.
and it was great.
Uh-huh.
This firm did some investor relations, but they also did a lot of M&A and a lot of crisis work.
Okay.
And I learned a whole. I felt like in 1.5 years I broadened my skill set by
Okay.
a
Wow.
wide mile
Uh-huh.
just being there. And frankly, that was kind of going there sort of gave me the confidence. I was helping them build out an IR practice, and
Mhm.
I'd
Mhm.
learned these other tricks pretty quickly. And I
Mhm.
just remember thinking, if not now, when? So that's what sort of compelled me to start this firm. I always knew that there was a need in the marketplace
Mhm.
for a firm that was good at this.
Mhm.
The industry had already started changing by then. I knew that we needed a broader skill set. You couldn't just,
Right.
go to market as vanilla IR people.
Right.
And so we that was sort of the dream, was
Right.
to start my own firm in my own, do things the way I wanted to do it.
Right.
Yeah.
And it was fun. It wasn't a hard decision because I was just kind of ready to do
Right.
that.
You were
Yeah.
already there.
Right.
I'm curious how you've seen, because since you've been in the industry for so long, how have you seen crises evolve?
Well, back in the day, there was
Mhm.
a very organized approach.
Mhm.
It was very easy to control your message.
Okay.
You disseminated your message
Right.
primarily,
Right.
right?
Right.
Yeah.
And so you got it organized yourself.
Right.
And there is a
And
hierarchy.
yes,
Yes.
and you put it out. You put it out in a press release.
Right.
And media for companies is not what it is
Of
today.
course.
There was no social media.
Right.
Right.
Okay, so
It was just news outlets
that
and journalists,
that's
basically. Right.
that's exactly right.
Right.
So you hope to get some pickup, and
Right.
every now and again you could get an exclusive interview on some interesting piece of news for
Mhm.
one of your clients, but it wasn't the job it is today.
Right.
Okay, so I think the world. I mean, that's been part of the fun of it, is that it has become so complicated,
Mm.
and
Right.
But
it
it's more difficult to control.
far more difficult to control. And today, one of the biggest challenges for companies is, how do you control your own message
Right.
in an age of disinformation and fake
Right.
news? You see all the time. And in the age of video, people take what somebody said,
Chop it up.
chop it up,
Right.
put it on social media, put it in a video, and all of a sudden it's like, no, that
Right.
wasn't what I intended to say.
Right.
And it's not even what I did say.
Right.
Yeah.
right? So there's a lot of opportunities, and in some ways it's so great because there are all these new channels the whole idea was to be able to amplify your message, right?
Right,
By
right,
putting it out across different
right,
channels.
right,
But the idea was that it would be one message that
right.
went out to all these
One band, one
different,
Yeah.
sound.
right? And what's
Yeah.
happened is
Right.
it's one
Yeah.
message that can be butchered. We live in an age where everyone thinks they can be a spokesperson.
Everybody.
Right?
And you're finding that more difficult now in big companies where the ego of
Mhm.
senior people thinking that they can just go out and say something on social or say something to a journalist and not realizing the implications of what that could be. How does a company sort of control when something like an astronomer situation happens? How is a company supposed to sort of control and do crisis management on something like that?
I think for the first point you're asking about, Shauna, has to do with some infrastructure at the company. And people forget a lot of times there's a catalyst where a company will say, maybe they're going public. And they say, okay, we have to get buttoned up here. We can't have, we need to appoint spokespeople. We need to have an organized way. People need to know what they can and can't say. They got to watch out for material non-public information. So sometimes there's a point in time that's kind of a catalyst
Right. For them
for
to get
buttoning
organized.
things up and getting organized. I think what companies forget to do is to dust that off once a year, and also getting some of this stuff as part of the onboarding process. New people join the firm, and when
Right.
you're going through, like, meet the team and here's the
Right.
company and how we
Mhm.
do things,
Right.
it wouldn't hurt to say, and by the way, these are our designated spokespeople, and this is our communications policy.
Right.
And if you're so inclined to comment on the company, this is the
process.
protocol and the
Mhm.
process for doing that. And so I think onboarding is key for that. The key time to do that once a year is key. And then, you know what, when something comes up like the astronomer or something, that's the perfect time for the CEO to send a note around and say, I am certainly glad that this is not me in this
Yeah.
story. And it would
Right.
be nice if it was none of the rest of you either.
Mm.
And so
Yeah.
heads up.
Yeah.
Heads up. You can find yourself anywhere, right? It's
Right.
so yeah, news and then the spread of the news. I mean, we saw that, right?
Well, and then that creating a ton of turnover at the CEO level. And one of your articles for Forbes, you talk about communicating a succession plan, and a succession of a CEO is just as important, if not more, than actually appointing a CEO. Can you elaborate more on that?
Fortunately, that's not the main thing that's driving rapid CEO succession.
Yeah.
But it was kind of funny how we
Yeah.
had the astronomer
Yeah.
situation, and then no
Absolutely.
sooner did we get up off the floor on
Right.
that, and it was Nestle. So
Right.
Yeah.
you're like,
Right.
yeah, but I mean, I think if you look at CEO succession, it's been it's been really unprecedented, and there's a lot of drivers of that.
hmm
The world, and I think a lot of it is the world is moving fast.
Right.
Yes.
And every day you're running a company in the face of so much change,
Right.
Volatility. The only thing you can count on is change. That's really the only
Right.
thing that's certain. And on the one hand, you look at it and you say, there's so many opportunities, right? There's AI, there's technology. I mean, we're on the frontier of really game changing
Yeah.
things and they are. I mean, I'm a big fan of Copilot, which is our licensed chat GPT,
No.
because I just see how much time it saves me and how
Right.
I can do so much more with it. And so you look at this across big companies and
Right.
just the opportunity to leverage new technology and the growth opportunities
Right.
and the way it could change the world and the opportunities for your company and your employees. And so in that sense, there's so much reason to be optimistic and hopeful.
hmm
But on the flip side, it's like, oh my gosh, the basic day job as a CEO is already busy. And then you're looking at, oh, now technology and AI, and now I have to be thinking, about cybersecurity even more than I used to.
Sure.
Right.
You're dealing with a changing workforce where you have 5 generations in the workforce.
hmm
So just as things are getting more complicated to manage and it's harder to get people to work together to produce the results you need, right? That's an issue. There's just so many things to keep up with. I think a lot of CEOs are saying, I don't want to do that. And the other thing that's happening is you've got activist investing,
Yeah.
Right.
which is alive and well. And so if
Right.
you're not, it's what have you done for me lately story
Right.
has really hampered public companies, and it really does not give them a lot of flexibility to execute what
Right.
we used to call a long-term plan. Every quarter, you're belling up to the bar to say, here's what we did for you lately. And a lot of companies feel that they get forced to make short-term decisions
Right.
that are probably not in the best interest of the long term. And as hard as companies work to not be, under the gun with that quarterly optic,
Yeah.
the quarterly calls do happen every
Is this
quarter.
potentially what happened with Disney? Because Bob Iger can't get away from Disney. It's the back and forth, the yo-yoing effect.
Yeah,
He's still around. There hasn't been a successful succession plan for
first of
him.
all, I'd say some people are really hard to replace.
Mhm.
Okay,
Right.
for a lot of reasons,
Right.
right? But as far you asked about the succession plan, and the job of the board is to hire and fire the CEO, right?
Right.
Mhm.
And oversee the rest of it. The first day of a new CEO's job is the day that the succession plan really
Should be.
starts. The changeover of a CEO can destroy an incredible amount of value very quickly, right? There's got to be some options, right? So it's grooming people internally to be
Right.
ready.
Mhm.
And then it's really the board and it's a communications job. So it's the board level,
Right.
it's a board level decision, but it's a communications job. So
Right.
in the best of all worlds, the board and the communications team are working kind of hand in hand to have that blueprint, right? So you want that off the shelf. You don't want to be
Right.
creating
Right.
messaging and documents and thinking about what's the whiffum for each one of your audiences when
Right.
that
Right.
happens.
Right.
And you want to anticipate both possibilities. The CEO departs unexpectedly,
Mhm.
or the CEO departs
But
by
Right.
plan.
Yeah.
Correct, right? And
Do you-
there's lots of different drivers of each of those scenarios, but you want to be ready for both of them,
Yeah.
and well planned and well communicated and well executed, not only announcement day of that, but then sort of the follow up. And I mean,
Right.
a new CEO is also a great catalyst for igniting new
Right.
interest and
Initiatives of
support,
doing-
right?
right,
And so
exactly.
sometimes there's been somebody around for a long time, and the investors and analysts and will say maybe it's going to be interesting to have
Right. It's
somebody
exciting.
new at the helm, and we want to know what the plan is. So
Mhm.
thinking about how does the new CEO pack a punch, and of course they need a minute to get, depending on the situation, to get
Yeah.
their head around. They're not expected to have a plan on day one, but 90 days goes pretty quick, right? So
Mhm.
the honeymoon's over, and then you better have something, right?
Yeah.
Right.
A lot of CEOs use that interim time to really do a lot of listening tours and getting to know the people and the clients, and coming up with a great plan.
Are we
Yeah.
seeing more internal promotions to the C-suite or external?
I think that is a mixed bag. The people that have already been at the company, they have the institutional knowledge that
Sure.
you can't possibly replace.
Yeah.
So I think it really depends on what is the situation with the company. Is it a turnaround? Do they need specific specific
Skill set.
skill sets for that? Is it a high growth thing? You see lots of times the situation where the founder was a CEO, and then there becomes a point
Yeah.
where the founder being the CEO doesn't really
Doesn't
make
work.
sense
Work
anymore,
anymore.
because the person that had the great idea and started the firm is
Isn't
not the
always
right
the
person
one who can
to drive
execute it.
that
Yeah.
growth,
That
right?
next
Right.
next generation.
That, to be honest, is what makes a lot of this really, like, from my perspective, fun and interesting.
Yeah.
I always say there's never been a more interesting time to be in communications. It's
Yeah.
become it's gone from being a kind of have to have function, a strategic advantage
Sure.
that create value and mitigate risk. And I have loved seeing that transition on how companies think about and
Right.
value communications,
Yeah.
expertise,
Right.
and professionals.
Yeah.
Right.
It's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
always immediately welcomed, particularly when companies have been private for so long and then after they IPO, there is a bit of a learning curve and sort of a convincing that has to happen in order to get them to realize the importance of brand reputation and how the pieces all fit with the communication, and sometimes over communication might be better than under communication. How do you get to a level, like if I'm somebody who's potentially a contender to succeed, and I know I'm maybe one of those 5 on the bench, and my CEO suddenly is either looking like he's going to get pushed out or she's going to get pushed out or suddenly departs. What am I doing to edge out my competition to be tapped?
Okay, so Shauna, you just asked me 2 questions, and
Yeah.
they're both interesting. I'll take the second one first.
Okay.
Okay, so if you want to be the CEO,
Hmm.
start working on it,
Right.
right? companies are always looking for that next CEO. There's often an internal slate, right? It's like anything in life. If you want that job, you start doing that job, right? You typically get
Right.
that job when you're already doing that job. So I
Mhm.
would say start finding ways to do part of that job.
Right.
Let people know, the people that matter, and develop your own support for
Network
that
within, right?
within the
Internally.
company. That's right. Become a very well respected leader within the company,
Right.
Mhm.
and network.
Yeah.
When make sure you pack a punch when you're presenting on your business unit
Right.
at analyst day or in a board meeting,
Right.
or right. I mean, you're on display every day you're in your job, right?
Right.
So you're either going to be considered or passed over. And Shauna, the other thing you asked was about how people don't always appreciate communication
And welcome the
and
guidance
well,
of
yes,
it.
well,
Mhm.
I think the best way for people to appreciate communications, frankly, is experiencing either some kind of embarrassment or
Touching the
crisis.
stove. Touching the stove.
And touching the stove, exactly. And I think that's been a wake up call.
Yeah.
And I think a lot has, I mean, in my many years doing this, I think the thing that really moved the needle wasn't so much about selling the opportunity and isn't this great, we can have ongoing access to capital and a lot. I mean, so communications does facilitate a
Mhm.
lot of things,
Right.
right? Access to capital, access to talent,
Yeah.
access to customers,
Right.
partners. Like it's an important
Right.
role,
Right.
Mhm.
but sometimes people take upside for granted and they go, okay, well, just do it or whatever.
Oh, okay.
So sometimes it's easier to sell against downside, right?
Mhm.
Pain, right? We always say,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
find a pain.
Work the pain.
Yeah, well, right. I mean, yes, I was sales trained.
Oh yeah.
Yes,
Absolutely.
and we learned three things: you need a pain,
Right.
you need a budget, and you need a decision maker.
Right.
And the budget has to be enough where someone's in enough pain that they're willing to
Right.
have one
Absolutely.
Yeah.
and tell you what it is. Okay,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
so
Absolutely.
you look for those things. But
Mhm.
I think some of the fundamental things that have changed the game are like activist investing. That was a key needle
okay.
mover, okay, for communication, certainly for investor relations.
Yeah.
The field of investor relations became a lot more important with
Sure.
this with this ongoing, and it's not a trend. I mean, it's been
Yeah.
It's like
something
this
that's
is here to stay.
yeah, this is part of life. So now
Right.
every company, it's on them.
Mhm.
That, it's on the company to look in the mirror
Mhm.
and look at your
Right. And make
company
sure you
through
don't
the
look
lens of an
vulnerable.
activist investor. And if there's
Right.
other better ways to be creating value, you better start thinking about that as
Got
part
it.
of your strategy and
Right.
the story you're communicating.
Mhm.
And there is no more having your head in the sand. So I
Mhm.
think as activism became more and more prevalent,
Right.
companies started going, oh wow, like we have to be accountable to these people,
Right. Right.
and they can make they can impact what happens to our company, right? They
Right.
can say, hey, we want you to divest this business now, get rid of get rid
Sure.
of that business and those people. The company's worth more without it. They can take over half your board. They can compel you to
Right.
sell your business to somebody else.
Mhm.
Right.
There's a
Yeah.
so they can compel change.
Mhm.
And so the game has really changed. And I think even at the board level, I actually interviewed for a story with
Oh yeah.
FT's Agenda on the topic of boards looking to hire communications
Right.
professionals.
Oh wow.
And I think that's two things. I think it's this whole topic we're talking about,
Right.
having people on the board that understand value creation
Right.
and Wall Street and how the game is played. And also in a fast moving world, more than one board has gotten caught unaware of crisis situations, right? And they
Right.
say, geez, if we had a good comms team, we
Then
would have
we'd
had
have
a
known.
plan and we would have had we would have
Right.
had all
Yeah.
this stuff in place instead of playing catch up when
Right.
when something actually happens.
Right.
Right.
This is just my perspective of the CEO role from a distance, but it feels like say back in the day, a long time ago, this was a very almost like quiet position. They're like stars.
Absolutely.
People know who they are. It's a very different kind of ecosystem now. So so people who want to become a CEO, what are you seeing are becoming the most attractive quality for CEOs in this time in this market?
Yeah. So I think the the first thing you mentioned was about CEOs being forward facing.
Mhm.
And I think that's true.
Mhm.
And there has been a lot written and talked about how in many ways the position of CEO is chief communications officer, right?
Right.
They are the CEO is really kind of the embodiment of the brand,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And some are more interested in building a personality around themselves than others.
Yeah.
Right.
I've seen it on Wall Street where we have two companies. One of them has a CEO that's super charismatic and a fantastic communicator, and the other one that has just as good of a business
Mhm.
is not a
But
good
it's not.
communicator. And the first one with Mr. or Ms. Charisma, they curry favor. So
Right.
the CEO has to be able to get in front of everybody, right? A tough reporter,
Yeah.
Sure.
and this is a key thing on the succession plan too, like getting in there, the comms team, getting in there and training these
Yeah.
people, right?
Sure.
So yes, they have to be trained and
Mhm.
capable and able, excuse me, to communicate with all these audiences, right? So
Right.
it's getting look at the stakeholder map, right? Getting the employees
Right.
all in the right direction and excited about where the company's going and what they're
Mhm.
doing and what their role is, right?
Right.
The customers, confidence that they have the right technology and the product and the team can serve them and deliver on time and all that good stuff. Wall Street, your access to capital and all
Yeah.
that,
Sure.
right? The media, the place where you build your profile.
Mhm.
So you have to be a pretty good communicator just to pass go, I think.
Yeah.
Right.
And that doesn't mean you need to be, a boisterous. I mean,
Sure.
do
You
you
have
know
to be
what?
bouncing off the walls.
No,
Right.
every CEO has their own. And I actually really enjoy tuning into CNBC and
Mhm.
seeing these
The
different
different kinds of
personalities,
personalities.
right?
Right.
And so you ask the question about who makes the right CEO.
Right.
Totally depends on what the company's situation is,
Yeah.
and there and it can often be a lot of different people, right? It depends on what industry you're in, right?
Yeah.
Some industries that are really big on, we're really reliant on technology and AI can really move the needle for them. Sure, then they need somebody that has that sort of a background. But
Right.
there's other companies, like take the real estate industry, right? Like
Yeah.
Right.
real estate companies are doing more with data and analytics, and
Yeah.
they're not going to be left behind. But it wouldn't be the first
Right.
Well, and
necessarily the first thought, right?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
real estate is an interesting sector because you see how you had the Oppenheim Group and Million Dollar Listing that used broadcast to really start expanding their network, getting TV exposure, getting more clientele that way, building their books of business, spinning off new episodes based off of new offices that they were starting to develop, and getting a lot of their clientele and exposure and branding through broadcast media. And then you see somebody like Ryan Serhant, who comes through the airwaves and then now has totally leaned into social media and has changed the game as it relates to real estate and putting out on social media and getting clients and exposure that way. And there's two sides, the initial critique, but there is also the initial critique with broadcast. For companies who, for other industries or maybe even financial services who aren't being as quick to adopt social media, aren't being as quick to welcome putting more of their executives on broadcast, or maybe they have a C-suite who's a little bit more shy. Are they going to be able to grow, or do you think they're going to end up falling behind?
I've seen plenty of people grow without doing all these things. There's a lot of ways to slice it, right? And some
Right.
companies are just more their personality is to be more quiet
Mhm.
Right.
and measured. But the world is to me it's a missed opportunity. Even if you want to be measured, you can still control your presence in the media. You don't need to show up everywhere. You
Right.
can show up selectively
Right.
at the right media
Right.
outlets,
Specific places.
where where there's some cachet to being at that media outlet, and the reporters
Right.
understand it's the right fit,
Yeah.
right? And we've had some clients that have been quick to adopt social media and others that are slower. I think we're living in a world today. I think companies have to step back and figure out what they're comfortable with, but at the same time, you have to meet your stakeholders where they are,
Mhm.
right? And so to me, slow adoption of a lot of new things is a missed opportunity for a lot of companies. There's a way to do social, there's a way to use video
Hmm.
Right.
that's engaging everybody, whether you're 65 or 18,
Mhm.
Yeah.
loves, it moves more quickly today,
Yeah.
gets
Right.
ideas faster,
Sure.
and also the fine art of being able to tell a long story
Right.
quickly,
Quickly
right?
and clearly.
Right,
Right.
right. And we're also in a fight for mind share. Okay. So if
Yeah.
you can create, like we're always talking to our clients about creating that 3 minute, less than 3 minutes now.
Yeah. 90
Video
seconds.
and like video series that
Right.
help like chunk up and explain.
They can
Right.
easily remember and regurgitate.
Right. But
Mhm.
yeah, and also to connect with the people. It humanizes the people, right? So
Yeah.
Right.
on your website, having some quick videos where people can go, oh, that's interesting. That's
Right.
what the
I know what
CEO
that
has
is.
to say about this topic. Or,
Right.
oh gosh, I was wondering about how does
Right.
this whole direct origination thing,
Right.
why
Right.
is
Right.
that such an important aspect of their business model? And how does it really work? And
Right.
why should I value that? Right.
Right.
So it can be all these things are just, really, important
Right.
today. So
Right.
I feel like some people come kicking and screaming
Yeah.
and
Right.
and it just kind of depends on your company's personality and
Right.
Well, I think it's just
happy medium.
everything is a new landscape right now. Like even if if we're talking about just how CEOs are presenting themselves in the workplace, we've talked about a bigger social media presence. Like Elon Musk is a good example. He is the brand. He's very difficult to replace, similar to Bob Iger. And I just wonder if, is he the exception of the untouchable, so to speak? Because he's very unfiltered and a little bit more like bold and brash than people would expect. Like historically, communications and media PR training is you have to be prim, proper, on point, professional. Make sure that you
What is
don't
that?
make sure that you don't drop an F bomb anywhere.
Yeah, the tech
And
bros
now
definitely changed
it's
to-
that whole landscape has also shifted entirely. What would be your advisement for this landscape?
There's kind of pros and cons of being controversial,
Hmm.
right? And having a point of view is one thing, but being totally out there is another.
Hmm.
I feel like I feel like every CEO has a personality and a place where they're comfortable in who they want to be and
Hmm.
how they want to show up.
Hmm.
And I think the key thing is authenticity.
Sure.
And it always is, right? So I think one of the most important jobs for communications people that help CEOs is to get to know the person, right? And to understand them and how they think about things and how they see themselves and where's their comfort zone and where can they be authentic.
Hmm.
And then you need to match that up with where should they show up? Where can they show up best and be their authentic
Right.
selves?
Mhm.
Right.
And you can set yourself apart by having something interesting to talk about. Right? As much as you can by dropping F-bombs.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, and I guess my approach would be to kind of find that white space and try to help
Right.
our clients figure out
Yeah.
where can they how can they show up and be memorable,
Yeah.
provide some information or insight that other people don't have,
Hmm.
and be authentic to the way that they are and want to show up.
Is
And I mean, I think I would venture that Elon likes showing up like that. That is his authentic self. So
right.
good for him.
Hmm.
But I don't know a lot of I haven't worked with a lot of people like that.
So that PR team, are they in constant crisis management, or they're just it's
I
another
would
day in the
bet-
office?
that's a good question.
You
I bet
know?
They're probably plugged into the matrix right now.
I bet they used to be. I mean, I could early on. I could see how they may have been. I would say, yeah. There's very little credit or blame that a communications team could take
For that type of
for that.
behavior.
Sure.
Yes. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's yeah.
He's a personality.
That's right.
He's
That's right.
yeah.
That's
and
right.
So,
And it's probably served him well.
Yeah.
And that's good. But yeah.
how does somebody in such a corporate environment, particularly when you've helped lots of companies go from private to public, how do you connect with a public audience after doing everything, so closed off and having a lot more freedom to do what you want, and now having more strict rules and making sure you don't put your foot in your mouth now, not trying not to get canceled, and still giving some authenticity. How does a C-suite do that?
Yeah, Shauna, that's a really good question. And that's, going public is not for everybody.
Right.
Okay. And you are absolutely right. So the mere act of going public
Right.
puts you immediately in the spotlight. Every piece of information that is disclosed
Mhm.
is available to everybody. So
Right.
it's immediate, instant visibility. Your customers,
Sure.
your competitors,
Sure.
your employees,
Mhm.
other people's employees, investors, analysts, like the media, it's all out there,
Right.
Mhm.
right? So that is a very big transition, and it's something that companies need to prepare for
Mhm.
and be very thoughtful about. Some companies are better off as private companies for a variety of reasons.
Mhm. I want to go back to your firm. You're a woman-owned business, and how,
For better or worse.
for better or worse,
Certified.
which I think is incredible. But I was curious as to when you started your firm, how exactly did that all begin? Meaning, was it a business of one? Did you bring other people with you? Where did you find them? And how did you get your first client?
That's a great question. So I started the business with a partner,
Okay.
and we had worked together at FRB.
Okay.
And I hired him at FRB to help with sales. And when I hired him there, he and I were like the number one we were the number one business origination team. And so
Okay.
I thought, God, if there's one person that would be great to start this business with, it would be this partner. So we got going.
Did he need some arm twisting, or he was on board
No,
right
he
away?
was really on board,
Okay.
but it was very interesting because both of us completely underestimated the challenges of getting a new business off the ground.
Right.
Okay. And you think, well, okay, I've been doing this forever.
Sure.
I've helped hundreds of companies.
Right.
Yeah.
We won business all day long together at this other firm. And
Yeah.
Right. What could be so hard?
what could be so hard?
Yeah.
Exactly. So we got going and we made this ridiculous pitch deck. The first realization was, well, we don't have anything. We don't have any clients. We don't have any case studies. And we kind of thought about this, but not really that much. So we were just, and this business is not large on the barriers to entry, right? So we had enough money to get the business off the ground
Mhm.
and
Sure.
pay the rent and do some things we wanted to get going. So we start the business and we're going to go on a marketing trip, and we have to make these pitch decks, and
Right.
we're sort of looking at each other like,
Who's going to make the
Right.
deck?
who's going to make the
Call
deck?
Johnny down and advertise. You gotta make the pitch deck.
Right, who's going to make the deck? And worse was like, what are we going to put in the deck?
Yeah.
Right.
So anyway, we went out. We had some brutal calls in the beginning. We went
Yeah.
to San Diego to visit this one company, and this guy says, God, thanks so much for coming down here. But before we get started, like, why on earth would I hire a no-name firm like you
Yeah.
to help me? Okay, so we had a few things like that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, then so to be honest, we just really did not appreciate.
But what was your answer to that?
Yeah. What was I gonna say?
The answer was, yeah, we did just start the company. You're absolutely. We had another guy that said, look, don't give me any BS. I know you just started this company like a week ago. So I don't need to hear anything about your company. Just tell me about what you used to do.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So
right.
anyway, what you used to do and what you think you're going to be doing here,
Now.
right?
Yeah.
So that was that. So there was a lot of that.
Right.
And what ended up happening is we realized that my poor partner, even though he's probably one of the best salespeople in the world, could not sell a startup.
Oh,
Interesting.
interesting.
Right.
Yeah.
So all of the clients that we got the clients like one by one
Yeah.
through relationships.
Okay.
And it took a long time, way longer than I thought. and it was
Like,
brick.
what are we talking? What's long?
I don't know. We probably had 10 clients at the end of the year.
Okay.
Yep.
But that's not a lot. I mean, I was used to managing a business with like 60 clients, like,
Yeah.
right. So I
Sure.
was like, okay, I
Yeah.
mean, it was okay, but not great.
Right.
And
Below your bar.
yeah, I mean, oh no,
Mhm.
well, what we had made a plan of what we thought we would be able to do.
Yeah.
It was a total joke.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Compared to what you thought you were.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, it was very hard.
Yeah.
And yeah, and so and basically, what you figure out is the only way you're going to build a business is by making every single one of your clients that you do have the blessing of working with
Mm.
turn into your best case
Right.
study and client reference. So when
Right.
you talk about brick by brick,
Yeah.
Right.
we're talking, and that's what I would tell them. I would
Sure.
say, listen, all like three of us or however many we had, we
Yeah.
have amazing experience. I mean,
Yeah.
that's all you got, right?
Yeah.
And fortunately, our business is a lot about your experience. And we had, even a few of us,
Yeah.
I had a lot of experience, and so I really had to rely on that. And then we had to deliver. Okay, so it
Right.
was just about that. And basically, I'll never forget one weekend. It was so fun. I went home, and you go to a certain number of meetings where you get an introduction, and there's a connection, and we worked really hard in our pitch decks.
Yeah.
Like we didn't assume anything. So we went into, and we still do this. We go to every pitch today like we need to win this, and we do the work. So we show up, and the faster we got past talking about us, the better. We basically did all the analysis and work up front on what's the situation, where's the problem, what
Right.
issues might they be
Where's the
having,
pain?
where's the pain?
Where's
Oh
the
no, we
budget?
diagnosed the pain. The doctor is in. So we showed up
Really?
smart.
Right.
And it was really funny because sometimes we would get these calls after the meeting,
Yeah.
and they would say, gosh, you guys left, and we met with all these other people, and they started off the pitch telling us all this stuff like, we have offices here and there, and we have
Right. Telling you
hundreds of
yourself,
people, and we
like,
have this and that.
We're so
And
impressed.
and we realized that we left the meeting really, really liking you guys, and you shared so many interesting ideas with us, but we don't know one thing about your firm.
You're like, that's the point.
So anyway, and frankly, a lot of humor was important.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And we would just tell people, they'd say, well, you don't have any clients in this space. And we would say, you're completely correct about that. You would be our inaugural client
Yeah.
Come
in
on,
this
inaugural.
space.
Yeah.
And what I'm
Right.
going to tell you is that we're going to kill it for you.
Right. We're gonna
Yeah.
leverage-
So that was key, showing up smart, connecting with the people. I still say it, doing the work.
Yeah.
And you find out that if you do the work and you help people, they'll do anything for you. Couple of big surprises. The people that help me,
Mm-hmm.
they're not always the people that you think. And there are some people along the way that go to such great lengths
Yeah.
to help you. And no, I feel like that's been such a
Yeah.
blessing. I have a few people in mind, and one person in particular who has just helped me tremendously in every way.
How do you show your gratitude back? Yeah.
Well, I mean, in all kinds of ways. I mean, let me tell you, if they get you hired for something at their company, you make sure you make sure they know you're grateful.
Yeah.
You make them look good,
Yeah.
and that's what it's about, right? I mean, when people are hiring people to do what we do,
Mhm.
think about it, right? It's their net worth, it's their reputation. I mean, this
Yes.
Right.
is
The
right?
big
Yeah.
things to
These are
hold.
big decisions. We used to waste time thinking everything was going to be a good client. And over the years, what we've learned is
Oh, okay. That's
no, everyone is not a good client. We're
Right.
not a good firm for everybody,
right.
and everybody is not a good client for us.
Right.
And when they are not a good client for us, or we're not the right match for them because of a million different reasons,
Sure.
Yeah.
then it's
Okay.
better to not work together.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's fine. Nothing ventured, nothing gained.
Right.
Goodbye. It's
Over-deliver.
better. It's better. It's
Yeah.
way better to have a match. And
Mhm.
really what you learn the longer you live is like, those are the most rewarding and fun relationships.
Absolutely.
The
Mhm.
people that trust you, the people that
Right.
They believe
Yeah.
in you, they trust
Right.
you. By the end of the relationship, they want to help you. We work for some very big companies that became big over time.
Sure.
We work for some very big companies where we have been hired to do a certain thing because we have deep expertise in that at
Mhm.
certain companies. And so it's all fine. But it doesn't and frankly, like this, there's no to me there's no more glory for working for a big company vis-a-vis
Sure.
vis-a-vis a smaller,
Yeah.
sometimes like the newly listed IPOs and things like that, or they need so much help.
Yeah.
Or these companies that get to be like, maybe they're a small cap company, and say they're like 2-3 billion, and they're like, we're really struggling and we need to evolve our
Mhm.
communications practices, because they think they believe that communications can change the game for them, right? And
Mhm.
if they adopt the practices of the leaders and things, so we go and help them do that.
Mhm.
And that's very gratifying. I mean,
Right.
helping companies get from here to there. So
Right.
and it's all, to be honest, it's all about the people. That's the fun part of this business. We've worked with so many amazing, funny and
Yeah.
fun, and whether they're quirky or or amazing, or geniuses or whatever. It's
Yeah.
just it's this menagerie of really, really great people,
Yeah.
and good people.
Yeah.
And that's the fun of it.
I want to take it to AI and how AI is disrupting marketing, communications, entertainment. What do you think is the future of communications now that we're having so much AI disruption?
I think that there will always communications is a consulting, and it's a craft. Sure. I was mentioning to you about my love of Copilot and
Right.
doing things so much more quickly and finding my own answers.
Mhm.
It's amazing.
Mhm.
That's cool.
Yes, but I'm not going to go into AI and explain to them all these things about this particular CEO
Right.
and how this guy thinks and what he cares about, and all the little things I've learned about how to be effective with this person over
Mhm.
the past 5 years, whatever,
Mhm.
and tell AI I'm having a little situation here. We're going to
Right.
have this crisis.
Right. What
Yeah.
what are your best
Right.
outcomes?
Right. I mean,
Right.
no, I feel like AI is going to do the same thing. It's across the board. It's going to take a lot of the grunt work out of things.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think that's great, but I think and we always say in communication, you're in communication, you're only as good as your arsenal of experience.
Mm. And AI doesn't have experiences. It can't
Right.
tell you what it's done
Right.
because
Right.
it hasn't done anything.
Correct.
And so that's really going to be your IP. AI will take over the entertainment and the speeding up of marketing decks and the making things pretty and catching your eye with
Oh
visuals.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
when it comes to actual thought leadership in respect to experiences, AI can never compete because it
Right.
doesn't experience
No,
anything.
Shauna, that's exactly right. Like, this, I mean, it's interesting because I think a lot of these SEO companies have gotten into trying to write blogs using AI.
Mm.
They're an unmitigated disaster, because
Yeah.
a good blog does not come. The only interesting thing about a blog is the stuff that the practitioner fills in about the specific
Right. Absolutely.
experience,
Right.
right?
Right.
So that, yeah, I think people are going to try a lot of things that aren't going to
Mhm.
work out, and
Mhm.
I think we're
Yeah.
completely aligned on
Right.
that
Yeah.
Right. So connection and experience will still
Yeah.
matter.
all day long.
So, but for younger people who are not, going, like, do we feel like younger people are going to be going through the same kinds of experience? Like, how will younger people gain the experiences that's the thing I'm not sure about. But
That's going to be interesting, especially in a world where people don't work in the office too much.
right.
Right.
When we used to go into the office all the time, people would sit in my office,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Or they sat outside my office.
Sure.
And they would come in and they would look, I would say, I'd say, hey, if you see anything on my calendar and you want
Yeah.
to, you're interested in it,
Mhm.
just come on.
Just
And
come
then,
Yeah.
in, right.
you
In a
know,
digital
in a
space.
digital space,
Yeah. Or on a Zoom, it's harder.
clients don't want to see these three people that they don't know when they're
Right.
talking about their right.
Right.
Yeah,
The
whatever the
sensitive parts of their
sensitivity of
business.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's a bad optic.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
Mhm.
nobody,
Nobody does it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But it used to just be part and parcel. So I
Yeah.
think I think the up and comers are missing out on a
Mhm.
lot of
I would
opportunities.
agree with that. I mean, so I started learning about communications and PR at my first finance job at a hedge fund, and we did a lot of PR for one of the co-founders. One of the things that I think my trajectory of growth in that space was, I think I learned the most observing him
Yes.
prep and getting ready to be on camera. He did a lot of broadcast, and just hearing his internal dialogue, hearing how he talks to the people, how he's thinking through things.
Yes. Yes.
And then we would help as a team to produce his talking points, and
Yes.
sitting in those meetings and listening to him go through it and understanding like what's important to him, what's not, how he's thinking about things, how he's positioning about things. And then also understanding there's a lot of prep that goes into people going on broadcast or TV or
Absolutely.
speaking as
There should
CEOs. And
be.
I think
There should be.
Yeah.
Exactly.
but exactly. Yeah.
Allegedly.
Sometimes not. But the ones who are really good,
Yeah.
they put in the work.
course.
But I think those who are, C-suite executives do the practice, and talking through and having that team of support who's helping you figure out what your thoughts are clearly and articulate very clearly is invaluable to watch as a young person who is started off as a marketing assistant, then an associate, and watching that and learning from that. I think that's something like,
Yeah.
that's an experience that I would not have gotten had I had not been in the room.
No, and that is probably the best ever kind of communications training to work with somebody that can nail the message.
Yes.
Right. What am I going to talk about here, and stay on message and helping figure out, what are these messages,
Right.
and not get distracted. Right. It's good.
Yeah.
It's great training.
Are people still, do you find people are still eager to get media training in this environment? Or
Absolutely. And for a lot of different reasons, right? So we have a client that and more people are, it used to just be like, let's train the C-suite. Okay. Now people are realizing, oh no, like this isn't just about that.
Yeah.
Communications is a competitive advantage. And to be honest, people are realizing that good communications matters no matter who you're talking to. You have to talk to your boss, who's not especially fun to talk to. You want to get a raise? Well, geez, why don't you come prepared with a few key points and navigate the conversation? And that's really all it's about, right? Media training is just about, how do I successfully navigate this conversation to convey the things that are the most important to me,
Yeah.
How do
and
I
not
tell the
get
story?
derailed by somebody else. Correct. So it's that, and it's a fine art that can be helpful in almost, and I don't know why they don't do more of it in school.
Yeah, they really should.
I mean, yes, it really, it's a great skill for everybody.
Yeah.
Like you said, the people that are really good, they do the work. And you have to do the work.
Right.
When you do the work, it works.
But I think if people leaned into, because I feel like at the end of the day, you're a storyteller. And like as a producer and as a storyteller, I inherently relate to that.
Yep.
And I think there's just so many different ways to tell stories, but the world is run by story. Period.
It is.
I don't care
all day long.
if you're a human being and you have blood is coursing through your veins.
Yes.
Your life is run by story. And I think the more that you can learn that, harness that, use that to your advantage, it's just a game changer for everybody.
Correct.
So that's why I appreciate what you do.
People relate to stories, right?
Yes.
We're always trying to help our clients with that idea.
Absolutely.
Okay. It's like, where's the story? Where's the proof point? Where's the anecdote? Like,
Absolutely.
the fact isn't that interesting. But then once you say, well, for example, one of our customers had this problem and we helped them develop this technology solution and they were able to do this. And it just becomes, it becomes more real and interesting.
Right, exactly. It also helps you deal with rejection, because if something didn't go right, it's like, oh, I have to learn how to tell a better story. I have to learn how to connect. Less like, oh, they don't like, you can separate yourself from what it is.
From getting better.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's like you can get better at it. And it gives you a road out, gives you a way to grow.
Exactly.
So that's
What do you say to a CEO who you're in crisis management and you're advising a CEO and the CEO says, no, we're not doing it that way?
What's incumbent on us is to explain the point of view and the pros and cons, and to provide your best advice. And then you say, I've now given you everything I got for you.
Right.
And obviously you are going to make the decision.
Interesting.
And whatever kind of decision you make, I'm going to help you make the best of that from a communications perspective.
hmm
And I have had people tell me that I'm wrong and that they're going to do it some other way.
hmm
And sometimes they have been right. And I can see that in the
Yeah.
rear view mirror. So
What does that do to your ego?
nothing. I think it's good learning. I
Okay.
mean, my way isn't always the right way.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of very smart people out there. I can think of this one instance. It was with a very, very smart, accomplished CEO who had taken many companies public. And this guy has very good instincts. And, you learn from that.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And I don't know everything. But, you can't, in communications, you can't say you're like always right in anything, actually. It's like,
Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
you hope
Right.
you're,
No, you give the
you,
best
you
advice
hope,
from the
yeah, you
perspective
hope
that you
you're
have.
right. And a lot of the
Right.
times you are,
Mhm.
Yeah.
but you might not always be right.
Right.
hmm
And in communications, it's funny. I have this one colleague and she used to be my boss and now she's worked for us for a long time. But I've always said to her, sometimes it's like hard to get everybody to get along at a communications consulting. Like, why can't everybody just get along and
Mhm.
agree a little more? And she's like, Maura, because we're consultants. Like, it's
Yeah.
everybody gets
Our job is
paid.
to
Yeah.
fight.
Everybody gets paid to have a
Right.
strong point of view.
View.
Right,
Yeah.
right, right,
Yeah.
right,
And
right,
so,
right, right.
it's okay. And
Yeah.
and some of that bantering and like it's good because you don't want it. You do want it. These are not.
Yeah.
Right.
These are important things that we consult on.
Right.
Important decisions
Mhm.
Right.
that have impact. So
Yeah.
you don't want to show up with half-baked advice.
Yeah.
And I like to form my advice,
Yeah.
not just based on my own. Like I always like to call up people and say, so here's the situation. And I know the different people. I love calling them.
Right,
Right.
right, right.
Okay,
And
and
want
then-
need those
on your
people.
team to do
Yeah.
that.
Your
Your
So
blind spot cover.
She's exactly. And then there's different people who will have different stuff. So that's the beauty of an agency, right?
Right.
Is you go, it's a collaborative
Effort.
approach to,
Right.
to problem solving.
Right.
Right. And I think that's what customers pay for.
Mhm. So we like to ask a question to all of our guests at the end of every episode. What is your definition of success today, and has it changed over time?
Shauna, I would venture to say that my definition of success has changed all through life. 20 years ago, I probably thought that I would have accomplished more. And when I say accomplished more, that probably would mean to me like built a bigger firm. Now it's more about being a good firm,
Right. As
being
opposed to a big.
correct, and really having great people. I guess I came to realize that that's way more important to me. Like
Mhm.
making sure that we're us
Mhm.
and we're authentic to financial profiles and who we are, and that bigger isn't always better.
Right.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you,
It has been my
Moira.
pleasure. We talked about so many things.
I
Yeah,
know. No, there
it's
was a
been
lot
wonderful.
to cover. There's a lot to cover.
A trip down memory lane.
Yeah.
So thank
No,
you.
but
Thank
thank
you
you.
so much.
To learn more about financial profiles, you can look in the description below.